Welcome, dear traders. Our analysts are ready to present the forecast based on a high-impact events and ongoing trend. Wall Street opened the week on a pessimistic note, and later on, investors were not able to find causes for optimism. The Dow Jones closed yesterday with a 0.55% decline, the Nasdaq closed 0.74% and the S&P 500 fell 0.41% to close at 3,908 points. The US stock market is expected to extend its losing streak today, and the major stock indexes trade in the red in the New York pre-market. The S&P 500 is likely to hold in the intraday corridor between 3,860 and 3,980 points. Wall Street indexes dropped in response to the ISM non-manufacturing PMI. The index of business activity in the U.S. services sector climbed to 56.9. The actual reading surpassed the consensus of 55.4 points. The fresh evidence of the expansion in the services sector is another argument for a rate hike. The proof of the resilience in the U.S. economy pushed the benchmark stock indexes down. The Nasdaq showed on Tuesday the longest losing streak since November 2016. Both the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones closed at a 7-week lows due to the prospects of further aggressive rate hikes. Today, futures on the U.S. stock indexes traded mixed in the pre-market, suggesting strong selling pressure. Today, investors are alert to remarks by some Fed's policymakers. Vice Chair of the Federal Reserve for Supervision, Michael Barr, will unveil his plan for the supervision of Wall Street banks and the review of regulations. It will be his first speech since he joined the central bank in July. Michael Barr, appointed by Joe Biden, is expected to take a more hawkish stance than his predecessor Randall Quarles. Besides, Fed's policymakers Loretta Mester and Tom Barkin are due to speak tonight. On Thursday, investors are anticipating a speech by a Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. Stocks of top high-tech companies such as Apple, Tesla, Microsoft, Amazon and Meta traded mixed in the New York pre-market. Apple stocks are under the spotlight today as the company is rolling out the new iPhone 14 and the Apple Watch. The campaign will reveal whether consumers are ready to buy new gadgets in the face of a soaring inflation and the doom and gloom in the economy. Shares of United Airlines also traded higher in the pre-market. They climbed more than 1% after the company said it continues to see a strong demand environment and now expects a third quarter 2022 total operating revenue higher than in the previous guidance. Walmart, Target and McDonald's announced a launch of their own bonds. The US dollar index has conquered a new historic peak. The index has grown 0.30% at the time of recording this video to trade at 110.60. The intraday corridor for the index is seen between 109.90 and 110.80. And this week the euro dipped below $0.99 for the first time in 2 decades, and the pound sterling tumbled to the weakest level since 1985. Meanwhile, the US dollar is trading at the strongest level since 2002. The US currency has advanced 13% against the euro, 15% against the sterling, and 20% against the yen in the last 12 months. These market growths mean the biggest annual growth since 1981. The reason behind the greenback stunning rally is the extremely hawkish policy of the US Fed. To tame soaring inflation, the central bank embarked on the fastest cycle of rate hikes since the 1980s. It has made dollar-denominated assets more attractive to investors. The US Fed has raised interest rates by 2.25% since March. Investors are also shifting focus to the safe haven assets, including the greenback, on the back of a slowdown in the global economy, a lockdown in China, and the energy crisis in Europe. As for the economic calendar, the fresh trade balance report confirmed the health of the U.S. economy. The U.S. trade balance deficit contracted by $10.2 billion to $70.7 billion in July, the lowest level in the last 9 months, and in line with the consensus. Exports rose 2.2% to a new historic high of $259.3 billion because an increase in the services exports offset a decline in merchandise exports. At the same time, imports decreased 2.9% because a decline in imports of consumer and manufacturing goods offset growth in imports of vehicles and spare parts. The US dollar is holding the upper hand over its Canadian rival. The USD CAD pair is moving upward and now trading at 1.3179. The currency pair is expected to trade in the corridor between 1.3120 and 1.3210 today. The loonie will depend on crucial events today. Investors will get to know the Bank of Canada's policy decision on interest rates and a forward guidance on a monetary policy. For the time being, traders are digesting the data on Canada's trade balance. Canada's trade balance profit amounted to 4.1 billion Canadian dollars in July, less than the profit of 4.9 billion last month, but more than the consensus of the 3.8 billion profit. Exports dropped 2.8% to 68.3 billion, the first monthly decline in 2022. The reason is falling energy prices. Apart from energy commodities, exports of consumer goods, pharmaceuticals and metals also went down. Futures on Brent crude sank 3.5% to trade at $89.50 a barrel. And WTI futures tumbled 4% to trade at $33.50 a barrel. Obviously, the loonie lacks support from oil prices. The crypto market is trading lower in parallel to the stock market. According to CoinGecko, Bitcoin plummeted to the lowest level since mid-June. The market capitalization of all cryptocurrencies fell below $1 trillion. The flagship crypto escaped from the trading range on a Tuesday. The token passed all support levels and declined below 19,000. Today, Bitcoin has shed 0.53% to trade at $18,800. Analysts predicted that the asset could sink below 18,000 on the condition it passes $18,600 and $18,200. And let me remind you to pay attention to remarks by Fed's policymakers during the New York session. Make well-rounded trading decisions and earn profits with the InstaForex. See you tomorrow.